comes to your mind when you have a good hamburger? We had a church picnic yesterday. I did actually write this before the picnic, but I had a burger at the picnic yesterday. But the time I'm thinking of happened on Memorial Day this year. This is what went through my mind when I had a good burger in my hand. So it was Memorial Day, and I'd taken my family up to Idlewild, and we hiked the Ernie Maxwell Trail, about 5 miles round trip, got out in the sun, smelled the pine trees, dipped our toes in a cool mountain creek. We worked up an appetite. So we're driving around town looking for a restaurant. Does that one look good? Does that one look good? And then I pointed, how does that one look? And I got a unanimous yes, an enthusiastic yes. There was outdoor seating, there was live music. It looked like a fun place called Ideology. Go there sometime if you want. It's with a Y instead of an E, you know, plays on the town's name. I-D-Y, Ideology. So we got there, and there it was on the menu, the Grizzly. Right? It had a bun, and then a bed of grilled onions, and a nice fat patty, topped with brie and a slice of Granny Smith apple. I thought, I'm daring, I'm going to do this. I was all in. And in fact, 2 other family members were in, and we enjoyed it. It was cooked to perfection. It was a really good burger. But with a good burger, no matter what kinds of ways we dress it up, if we're feeling daring and we do grilled onions and a slice of apple and brie, we have a good bun like brioche. If the meat is bad, it's not worth it. It ruins the whole thing. If it's charred to a crisp, or if it's like so rare that it's cold in the middle still, you know, it kind of ruins it for you. With a hamburger, it's all about the meat, and the rest sort of enhances it and builds it up. However, I don't want to eat just a patty of meat either. You know, I want the enhancements. I want the condiments. I want the things that build it up. So that's one of the things that goes through my mind when I eat a big burger. The other thing is the beauty of it, the symmetry. You ever thought about it? The meat's right in the middle, and then on either side of the meat you got, you know, condiments and other enhancements, and then finally on the outside of both you got a bun. Well, today we have a gospel hamburger. What do I mean by that? Well, the literary form I'm talking about is called chiasmus, which actually starts and ends the same way. So, technically, it's an A, B, C, B prime, A prime. Not so technically, it's a bun and some condiments and some meat and some more condiments and a bun. It's a hamburger. It's a gospel hamburger. Now, if we look at the outsides of today's gospel passage, we see some comments, the buns, right? We see some comments about Jesus' family. His family thinks that he's mad. And then some teaching happens, and then they come to get him at the end, and he says, who's my real family? As we work our way in toward the focal point of the whole passage, some scribes come, and they are saying some things about Jesus. They're accusing him of being demon-possessed. And after we get to the meat of the passage, Jesus then sort of addresses the scribes' issue by saying, do you plunder a strong man's house without first tying him up? That's all before we get, or all surrounding the meat in the middle, the passage. The meat in the middle is this. Jesus says, if a kingdom is divided against itself, that kingdom cannot stand. If a house is divided against itself, that house will not be able to stand. And if Satan has risen up against himself, he is divided, he cannot stand, but his end has come. Really, that's the meat, the main point of today's passage. House is divided, will not stand. The buns, Jesus' family, they think he's gone mad. There's a kind of division in his household. On a bigger level, the scribes, they are accusing him of being demon-possessed. The scribes and Jesus at this point, they're a part of the same religious organization. The household of faith, in that sense, is divided. There's a lot going on here when Jesus says, a house divided against itself will not stand. Who are my true family members? He says. Who are those truly of the kingdom? And he answers, whoever does the will of God is my brother and sister and mother. But meat by itself, we want those enhancements. That's the meat we just talked about. What are the condiments? What are the buns? What are the other things that are going on in this passage that enhances the whole thing? What is the context? Well, they're not for nothing. The scribes called Jesus Beelzebul. Have you heard that name before? I did some study on it. Jesus then throws in another spiritual name, Satan. Okay? Let me talk about those a little bit. These are kind of those enhancements that build it up. What's this about? Well, Beelzebul, very curiously, is translated literally, the Lord of the Flies. Does that ring any bells for anybody? In 1954, William Golding published his first novel called The Lord of the Flies. And if you know this story, it's been made into a movie a couple times. But it's about a couple, or several boys, choir boys from England, some of them, are on a plane wreck. Plane crashes. I don't know if it's in the South Pacific or what, but plane crashes and the boys of the aircraft, the adults perish, but the boys are safely washed ashore deserted island. And basically the rest of the book is their disastrous attempt at governing themselves. A small society, a small kingdom divided against itself will not stand. Lord of the Flies. You think William Golding was aware of this and making a connection? I'm sure he was. He won a Nobel Prize in 1983, by the way, for this and other novels he published. But it's interesting, the Nobel Prize website has this to say about him. I'm all over the place, I gotta find it. It's my notes. Here it is. Okay. He won it for his novels, which, with the perspicuity of realistic narrative art and the diversity and universality of myth, illuminate the human condition in the world of today. That was the main idea there. He won a Nobel Prize because of how his art illuminates the human condition. Lord of the Flies. Kingdom divided will not stand. Now Jesus brings another word in here. Satan. We might think of Satan as some kind of distinct personality. Maybe Jesus did too. That's not really the point that's going on here. Satan literally translated means accuser. And the scribes have just come and accused Jesus of being possessed by Beelzebul. Well then, he also equates Beelzebul with Satan by saying, how can Satan, Beelzebul, cast out Satan, other lesser demons? He's putting them all into one category as a way of saying that Satan is a unified force against the works of God, a force working against God's love. Now God made humanity. Humanity was made in God's image, which is love. But ever since creation, as we were reminded even today in the Genesis passage, ever since creation, the Lord of the Flies has been opposing God's will and mission of love, bent on dividing humanity through accusing. Adam accused Eve. This woman you gave me. Did you hear that? The Pharisees accused, or the scribes accused Jesus of being possessed. It's not just that. We've accused God of not loving humanity. We've accused humanity of not loving God. Where was God when the hurricane happened or something like that? We've heard accusations of humanity not loving neighbor, accusing, and sadly, humanity has listened. The Lord of the Flies has effected division. Cain killed Abel. Joseph's brothers sold him into slavery. Pharaoh held Israel in captivity. The Roman Empire increased in domination through military might. Christians slaughtered Muslims in the so-called Crusades. We've listened to these accusations. The Lord of the Flies has divided Jesus vividly and poetically reminds us of that today. Kingdoms, households, families divided against themselves will not stand. There's a spirit and work effectively trying to divide us from God's mission. So as the church, those trying to fulfill God's mission, what do we do about it? Just go working my way to one point of application. I'll get there. But first, let's think about some things. I'm going to start with family dynamics, extended family dynamics. Imagine, getting together around the Christmas table or Easter table or something with extended family, right? Now, if your family's like mine, it can be complicated. It's complicated. That's an official Facebook relationship status. It's complicated, right? We know this term triangulation, maybe. Triangulation, simply put, you got two people that have some kind of argument or conflict. One of them decides to draw a third person in. So now you have three people in a conflict that started with two. Someone's been won over to a person's side. Now that conflict, if efforts at reconciliation had been made when it was just two people, it would have been easier than now that there's three people involved. But even three people is easier than bigger. You know what happens? This poor person over here feels like, well, I'm in the minority here. I need to go out and find somebody on my side. So further triangulation happens, and now four people are involved, and then this side becomes bigger, and this side becomes bigger, and before you know it, we have family conflicts. We have feelings hurt. We have things being said that really shouldn't. We have actions being taken that shouldn't be taken. Family grudges and estrangement result, and attorneys make money. By the way, these kinds of conflicts can be avoided, but they often come up over silly things, seemingly insignificant things. However, there's a few things that kind of bring them up more than others. Property matters, politics, religion. So take that now, that family picture, and extend it out. This is the next place I want to go. Church family, Jesus' family, right? You've got conflict within the system of family. It happens at the church level too. The names all change, but the song remains the same. Differing opinions come up on property, on religion, on politics. One church body triangulates with another against a third. Before we know it, a new denomination pops up. It happens. We've seen it in recent Episcopal history. One more step outward, then we'll be about ready. Transfer these dynamics to the context of larger society. What happens when one nation triangulates with another against a third? And then that third triangulates with a fourth against the first two, and it builds and it builds and it builds. You know, on this day, 100 years ago today, the American military was involved in its first major battle against the German army. In World War I, we call it World War I today. It was called the War to End All Wars back then, until 20 years later, and another world war began. This is where conflict goes. A family, a household, a kingdom, all humanity divided against itself will not stand. So on the other hand, what if reconciliation is taught, is caught, is practiced, sought? That's the word I'm looking for. What if reconciliation is sought? They all rhyme. I don't know. What if two persons, or church bodies or nations, but what if two persons seek to live in harmony with each other before the conflict breaks out, before the triangulation happens? Instead of looking for someone to support my cause, to bolster my conviction that I'm right and my accusers are wrong, what if instead I go to my accuser and seek to understand? I'm not saying seek to agree, but seek to understand. Seek to live in harmony. Harmony and agreement aren't the same. Musicians, we know that. All the instruments trying to agree, what do you get? One note. It's only when you have musical disagreements that you get the richness of chords. It's okay to live in disagreement with each other as long as we're seeking harmony. So anyway, bringing it all around, the one point of application, we need to seek civil discourse. We need to be a place that provides civil discourse, a forum for civil discourse. Our culture today is characterized by polarization, which is to say division, or the Lord of the Flies working against Jesus' mission. But modeling reconciliation and offering a place where people of differing opinions can come and discuss them, this is a good part of the mission Jesus left to us, his followers. It's the meat in the middle of the burger. It's the focal point. When we concentrate on that and not on our differences, we can end up working together, enhancing the meat in the middle to have the best possible flavor. It's a call for the church today to hunger for reconciliation.